to
How Did We Get Here? Today we have our friend and a local horse trainer, Bailey Monnahan, and we talk about everything from what does it actually look like to train a horse, to living in two places, dealing with grief and loss, and where
everything
God
in
is
between.
in it, all of it. So we hope you enjoy this episode.
All right. So, Bailey,
Yes,
welcome.
Thank you. Excited to be here.
We are excited to have you. This is so cool. Bailey is actually has her own podcast, so this is really fun to be like multiple podcasters on one thing.
Yes,
So.
it's the gathering of the podcasters.
It's fun to be on this side finally.
Yes. Do you want to tell us the name of your podcast and kind of an idea of what it's about?
Yeah. So my podcast is called His Ways Are Higher, and I started it because I really love listening to other people's stories. And there's one podcast in particular that really inspired me. I don't feel like I've reached my highest goals, which obviously once I do get there, those will change. But I just feel like I've been kind of in the trenches for quite a while trying to get there. And this podcast that I listened to was really telling stories about women like me in the ag industry and horse training and stuff like that. And but they were telling their stories of, I was kind of down in the trenches too, but God brought me up here. And so I was like, oh, I just love stories like that. And finally I heard somebody's story on another podcast. I was like, okay, that's it. I got to start my own.
You're like, I would love to listen to people's stories all day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Agreed. And your podcast is also on Spotify, so you guys should search His Ways Are Higher.
Spotify.
And yeah, Bailey interviewed me several months ago on her podcast, so we thought it would be fun to have her on ours. Bailey is our inspiration for podcasting.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Because we had
Glad
talked
I
about it for so long, but woo.
Glad I could start a movement, I guess.
Yes.
The podcast movement.
Whoa. Seeing someone we know actually do it was very inspiring. So, yeah. Do you want to jump right in?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, Bailey. First of all, tell us a little bit about where you're from, if you want to share how old you are, what you do for work, any of those things.
So I'm from Crumling. Grew up here. My mom and I moved up here when I was 7. She married my stepdad, and we live on his family's ranch. It's been in his family since the late 1800s. So very blessed to grow up here in the mountains and get to ranch and fall in love with horses. And I was homeschooled, did 4-H, played sports. And after I graduated, I moved out and worked for some horse trainers and had several different jobs for several years. And got to learn a lot about the show horse world growing up here. Like I said, I fell in love with horses, but just ranch horses. And we just kind of rode on the ranch. And we did not have fancy horses, but I loved riding. And when I first got my first few jobs in that area, total different world. The show horse world, there's so much money in that. And the horse power is far beyond what I was. Yeah.
Horsepower.
So much more athletic animals, and just the way they take care of them and train them is a lot different. So that was a really good experience doing that. But I moved back home, I think almost 5 years ago now, and got the opportunity to come work on the family ranch and help my parents and my younger sisters here too, and start my own horse training business, which has been really interesting and ups and downs, but really cool. And we only run cattle. We don't own any cattle ourselves. We just run a bunch in the summer. And I train horses for people and have my own horses. But we get a lot of snow, and it's cold here in the winters, and the winters are very long, so there's not much to do. Most ranchers up here have cattle that they feed through the winter. We only have our cattle that we run on our place from like June until October. So there's nothing to do in the winter for me unless I were to get a town job, which I've done that. But I've had the opportunity the last 2, this will be my 3rd winter, to go down to Texas for the winter and go to a place where there's a lot of horses and a lot of horse trainers. And I've got connected with the cowboy church down there, and I get to live there and train horses there and then be involved with the church. And so...
Is the cowboy church made up of, it's all cowboys that attend, cowboys, cowgirls, people who work ranches?
Cowboy church?
Well, I've been to like Sundays where we do cowboy church, but
Oh no, cowboy church is fun.
So It's different. I've been to a cowboy church in Colorado when I was at one of my other jobs. But no, it's not like you have to be a cowboy or a cowgirl to attend. But this church that I go to down in Texas, it's like their mission is to draw in the working cowboy. Because if you think of like working cowboys, they're tough. They're probably out working on the ranch all the time. They're not really wanting to come to town necessarily. And maybe they love Jesus, but they don't like the traditional church setup where it's like hymns and super Jesus-y. And
right.
So their idea is to kind of westernize church and just make it more appealing. Like, you don't have to come in a suit and tie. Super casual. If you've got cow poop on your boots, great.
Yeah.
Come on in, you know. So I guess that's kind of their idea. But the area, like I said, there's a lot of horse trainers and stuff, but really it's a lot of people who just love the Western and cowboy culture that come to that church. There's a lot of people that ride horses and stuff, but most of them really are just like Texans that they might wear a cowboy hat, but they have no idea how to work a cow or ride a horse or anything like that. So but different cowboy churches are different across the country, I'm sure.
That's cool.
Where did you live before you lived in Colorado?
I was born and raised in Colorado, but before we moved up here, Mom and I lived in eastern Colorado.
Oh,
like pretty close to Kansas. So.
Oh, nice. So like where I'm from.
The Flatlands.
The Flatlands.
Oh, I know eastern Kansas.
Oh, do you?
I was on the side of the road in eastern Kansas for many hours with a broken down car.
For miles.
Yeah, literally.
Nothing like up here. Which I was just thinking about that, getting ready to come on here today. The how did I get here thing. It's so crazy, like the little choices that people make or choices we make that can so drastically affect our lives. And just like my mom marrying my stepdad, like that. Mom's dad had cattle and a little ranch, but Mom didn't grow up riding horses a lot, like maybe a few times a year.
Right.
Whereas me, when we came up here, my stepdad had horses. Like, I wanted to ride all the time. When I don't know how old I was, maybe 10 or 11, when I finally got confident enough to ride by myself, and I was like, all the time. Like, I don't care if anybody else comes with me, just saddle my horse or put my bridle on for me and I'm gonna go ride. But like, we didn't have horses until we moved up here, so it's just crazy to think how
like life altering was for you.
Just like, the horse deal. But even coming up here, like, this is my hometown, and all my friends and mentors and
So did you go to homeschool as well, or did you go to the local high school?
No. So when I was 7, when we moved up here, I went to preschool, kindergarten down in eastern Colorado, public school. 1st grade public school up here, and then 2nd grade through high school I was homeschooled.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that.
There you go.
Homeschoolers unite.
Yeah. Again, that was one of those decisions where I was like, I could still be up here, but going to public school would have really changed my life a lot.
Yeah.
So I was really grateful for that too. And homeschooling, I'll plug in for homeschooling here because I love it. That's what gave me so much freedom to ride horses as much as I did. Yeah. Like, I could still play sports, but being able to get my school done by noon, go ride horses, and then go to basketball practice, and that's the middle of winter, so that's not the ideal time to be riding. But if even in the fall, there's a lot of ranch work that we do with cattle in the fall. So being able to like get my schoolwork done and then all afternoon go ride and do ranch work.
Maybe I just always thought you graduated from high school here. I don't know why.
I think because she was part of sports.
Yeah. So like back home in Kansas, number one, not many people are homeschooled, but number two, like, I don't think homeschoolers can participate in sports. So, and I definitely could be wrong on that. But, so that's why here I'm like, oh, like, this is so cool. You can still be part of like the school and the community, but be homeschooled at the same time.
I think Colorado has a law that homeschoolers have to be allowed to participate in extracurricular activities with public schoolers, public schools can't say, no, you can't be involved. So it wasn't even a thing. But like even Texas, which is a lot more conservative than Colorado, I don't think they have that law. Huh. So Colorado's just really good for that.
This is the first place I've seen that has that, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
I think it's awesome because like all the homeschoolers that play sports like love it, but they don't want to go to school necessarily. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, what sports did you do? You said basketball.
Yeah, I played volleyball for a few years. and then soccer when I was like in middle school. But basketball I played from 5th grade all the way through high school. So I was definitely, like I said, basketball in the middle of winter is the best time. There's nothing else going on. So that was perfect. And that was really the sport I loved the most.
Okay. Did you coach at all?
So my sister's 7 years younger than me. I was a volunteer coach her senior year. Because when I moved home, I think she was a junior. And so that was my purpose of staying. I wanted to move home and be able to finish watching her play basketball through high school. And then her senior year, they had gotten a new coach, and I was like, I want to go play too. So I got along with him good and went and helped. I was just there at practices. I don't know if I helped much, but just another person.
Just fun for me.
Yes. Another person to yell at the girls, I guess.
That's funny. So what is it like living in 2 different places? So Texas and Colorado, 2 completely different places.
Very different.
I mean, not even just like environmentally, but like culturally.
Oh, for sure. Well, and then so like up here we're kind of redneck, but ski town, and out in the middle of nowhere, more or less. Like it's 30 minutes to a good grocery store, but then an hour to a Walmart.
Right.
And Texas, where I'm at, like you can go to remote places in Texas, but where I'm at, Weatherford, and that's like 30 minutes from Fort Worth, but Weatherford itself is ginormous. Like there's no country. There's just a lot of people in between the little towns. But Weatherford itself, you could do there's everything you could want for shopping, and then anything you could want to do too. So it's, well, what I found in myself, like I love horses, but working for different horse trainers, like there was 2 show horse trainers that I worked for a year solid, and I just found myself getting really bored and frustrated and wanting to do something else. So I found in myself that I need seasons. So like summer's great. You've got 3 or 4 months where we have cattle, so there's irrigating, putting water all over the land to water it and grow the grass. The cattle to take care of, which mainly we just make sure they stay in, which is a challenge. They are teenage boys and don't like to stay in the fences. So then there's fence fixing, fence building, and all those projects, and then all the horses that I ride and stuff too. So there's a lot going on for 3 or 4 months, and it's great. I love summertime up here. But like right now, I'm in kind of the slow season. We've shipped all of our cattle off like a month and a half ago. I've sent my customer horses home. Kind of just trying to get my life in order and get prepared to go to Texas. And then down there I'll try to get clients put back together and ride down there in an arena for 3 or 4 months. And then I'll have a slow season coming back up here and regroup for the summer. But I know a lot of people would not like that at all. But for me, I've really found it's just refreshing to get to have that change. And it's, I don't know, it's kind of exciting to like go back to the other life that I have down there, I guess.
You could be 2 different people.
I could, I know. I actually had that thought. One time I was moving to Montana, and I had a job up there for a couple months, and found this guy, like I posted a job, I needed a job online or whatever, and he called me and we conversed a few times, and like I was going to go drive 12 hours up to this place and work for this guy I've never met, just talk to him on the phone. I was like, this could be actually a really terrible idea. But one of the thoughts as I was packing up and going up there, I was like, I know nobody up here. I could literally be whoever I want. Nobody would know the difference.
Yeah.
That's just kind of a crazy... I didn't. I was myself, but...
But you could have.
Yeah, I could have, yeah.
Been your Hannah Montana moment.
Exactly.
I cannot see Bailey as
I mean, she was in Montana, so,
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
That's what made you think of Hannah Montana.
Yeah, I actually never watched Hannah Montana, so I'm a little bit of a faker, but whatever.
Just pretend like you know what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like to throw references out, hope that other people will catch them and think that I know.
Yeah.
Yes. Really, she's like, I have no idea.
I have no idea, but I know that it's a thing. Okay, picture your 18-year-old self. What do you think is one thing that 18-year-old Bailey would be surprised to know about your life now? Or more than one thing?
Yeah. The first thought that comes to mind that's funny, and so I'll just share it because why not be goofy? 28-year-old Bailey now is still single and lives with her parents, and I mean that's just the way it's worked, and it's all good. But that's definitely not what 18-year-old Bailey thought was in 28-year-old Bailey's forecast. But also, I don't really remember what I was expecting when I was 18. I think I knew at that point that I wanted to go work for horse trainers and grow in that field, advance my horsemanship. But it's really cool now that I have a horse training business, and it's not like thriving like most horse trainers. Like they're working their tails off riding 10 horses a day if you're really wanting to climb the ranks in that field. And like I said, for me, I don't want to get burnt out. I know I will. I want to always enjoy that. So I've got 3 customer horses at a time when I'm really busy. Right now I've got none as I'm getting ready to move. And but I don't know, I've had a lot of really great adventures, and the Lord, lots of twists and turns that did not see coming or were a lot harder than I would have wanted it to be. But there's a lot up ahead for 18-year-old Bailey. Like, buckle down and get yourself rooted in the Lord, and just hang on.
What do you think have been some of those detours that you didn't expect?
A lot of the job things have been like so I graduated, and last couple years in high school, I'd started taking college classes online. So by the time I graduated high school, I had a year done. I stayed home for another year and got my associate's degree. Decided that was enough of that, and I wanted to go to work and actually start learning things that I wanted to learn. And just like getting I had 4 different jobs in 3 years. And so just how all of those worked out never went the way I thought it would. Like the very first job I had working for a cutting horse trainer, I went and met the guy, decided like, yes, this is what I want to do. And he worked for he was the trainer, but he worked for the owners of the place. And so just all this up and down of like, you'd be great, but the owners want me to hire this girl, so they hired that girl, and I was looking for another job and talking to some other people, and finally, like a couple months after I met him and even went to a show and worked for him, it finally clicked, and it was good after that, right? Well, then I have ideas of like, okay, I went and worked for my stepsister for a little while, rode horses for them, and then I was like, okay, I want to go to Montana, because at that point, I'd never been to Montana. Mountains, I thought it'd be great, cowboy country, I guess, and that didn't pan out. Like, I was putting out jobs, trying to find a job in July, and talked to some people, and it just never panned out. So I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just stay home through the fall and help on the ranch at home and whatever. Well, then out of the blue, that guy calls me, and then all of a sudden I was like, oh, crap, I guess I'm going to Montana. So then just, all of it mumble-jumbled kind of, but it was always in the Lord's timing and always the right thing. But, I just, the last job I had before I moved home, working for another horse trainer in eastern Colorado, I remember getting home from Montana, and like I was on a ranch. There was no arena stuff, no horse show stuff, and I was like, I want to get more into the ranching stuff, so I want to go work for a ranch and like learn the cattle side of stuff. Because even though I grew up on a ranch, like I'd help move cows and I'd ride my horses and stuff, but I was never involved with running things. And so I came home from Montana, was looking for a job, nothing was coming together. My mom showed me this ad for a horse trainer looking for an assistant trainer. And I was like, Mom, that's not what I want. I already told you I don't want to work for a show horse person. Like, why are you even showing me this? Totally brushed it off. Like 3 days later, my stepsister sent me a picture of the exact same ad. So I was like, wow. Okay, fine. Lord. I guess I'll call him. So called him, and everything was kind of good. He was asking about my experience, and I was trying to figure out what he needed. And I was like, well, I want to stay home through the holidays, so I'm not really looking for a job until like January 1st, and it was beginning of November. And he said, well, you sounded great, but like I need help right now. So I was like, well, no big deal. I knew this wasn't going to work anyways, so it's fine. And he said, well, if you're ever down this way, come ride with us. And I was like, well, actually, like my grandma lives 30 minutes from you, and I'm going to see her this weekend, so I could actually come meet you this weekend. So I went from grandma's house to go meet this guy, and like I wasn't even nervous. I just knew it wasn't going to work. I was just like, I'm going to go make a connection. This is a good horse trainer. I'm going to go ride a cool horse and learn something about how to train a horse. You know, it's going to be fun. Well, I spent 2 hours there with him and left knowing that was where I needed to be. And spent a year there and grew so much in just horse training stuff. Like my knowledge grew insanely a lot. Got to start some 2-year-olds, got to show a little bit, and I actually started leading worship at that church that I went to there. That was a huge growing experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the guys, his customers and stuff were super nice. It was just a great place to be, and totally obvious that. And it was especially after that point, all of my job experiences have been like pointing to the fact that, okay, Bailey, you really don't know what's best for you. Like, just get that out of your head and just. Exactly. I've learned to go with the flow after all of that, but that one especially, I was like, okay, Lord, I give up. Like, you've got it handled. I'm just gonna.
Right? You're like, I'm stepping out.
I'm done trying to tell you what I think I want, because it's obviously never right. So. Yeah.
Oh gosh. So, you lead worship?
Occasionally. So the story on that was that summer I've played guitar for, I think I started like in 3rd or 4th grade. And singing wise, I don't know if I ever, especially at home, I would sing super quietly when I was like practicing guitar. I'd have like a fan or my heater going, and I'd shut myself in my room. My mom would intentionally come upstairs, and my room was right next to mine, to listen to me while I was playing, so that I'd get even quieter so that she couldn't hear me.
Like, I know she's out there.
The only way I ever sing loudly was at youth group. But there was a bunch of us, so I knew I wasn't actually being heard. So that was like that was my confidence level, right? So the summer before I went to that last horse trainer, I felt the Lord kind of pushing me to step out of my comfort zone. So I started taking videos of myself, like doing cover songs, and posting them on Facebook, and got lots of great feedback, you know, totally positive. And one of my cousins was like, that is really cool that the Lord has blessed you with that gift. Like, you should use it to serve him. And I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. Well, then I go to this new job, start going to a church where my friend and his family went, and it was like 20, 30 minutes from from my job. So I was like, and that was the first cowboy church I went to. But I went, and I actually knew one of the guys that was an elder. Didn't know he was down there, but just walked in and I was like, oh, hey, I know you.
How funny.
And they had no music. Like, it was a church that had been really big. The pastor kind of did some bad stuff, and it dropped down way low in attendance, but there's some people that just stayed faithful and kept it going, and they had just gotten a new pastor. And when I showed up, like, I went to a couple services, and they just, like, had a message and no music, and I was like, oh, crap.
I know I'm gonna have to do this.
You're like,
I went up to the elder that I knew, and I was like, hey, so if you guys want me to lead worship, I can.
That much enthusiasm?
Yeah, maybe slightly more, but I was like really dragging my feet on it. And so for that year, like, the worship was me and my guitar, and they didn't have like a great sound system or anything. I don't even know if people could hear me because they didn't ever mic me. I don't think I ever really had a mic, and I could just play my guitar loud enough to like echo in the building. But every time I'd go up there, my knees would be shaking, and I would prepare. Like, they didn't care what songs I sang. I just pick 3 songs and practice them throughout the week, and then print out the lyrics for people. But that was, and it was so cool to watch what God did after that. Like, they talked a lot about how there was like, at one point like 3 people who were just being faithful, and they'd show up for church, and there'd just be 3 of them, and so they'd just do like a Bible study.
Oh wow!
And as I was there, they grew. And now they've got a full-on band. Like, there's a couple people that took over after I left, and they've got several singers and a drummer and a couple guitar players, and it's just cool. I've gone back a couple times since then, but just the way I think that's such a cool testament, and it like moved me immensely when I went back to visit and saw this whole band up there. And
Yeah.
Like, wow, that's so amazing what the Lord can do when people are just faithful.
Right. And obedient, even when it scares you to death.
Yeah. Sounds like a whole KCC moment.
Yeah, it does.
Because you were part of the original, like, worship team at the church, right?
I don't know if I was original. I was...
Like with Crick?
In there a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was still fun. It's still fun to watch it grow. But yeah, I think that's where we met you, was worship. And yeah, really got to know you there. So.
Yeah.
I think it's so interesting how a lot of people I know, specifically that lead worship, started out being so afraid to sing in front of people or to lead, and yet God had like this identity in them from the beginning, like with you and with me and with like even I think Crick would say the same thing.
Yeah,
and there's so
much
power.
I just have all the confidence.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna exclude Beth from this one. She could always sing. But you know, like being afraid to do something and still doing it because you feel like it's something
telling you to do it.
Yeah. And now, I mean, you even play around the county at different events, and like it's gone beyond just leading worship at a church to like using your voice.
So like, hey Bailey, you're here. Let's have you sing.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I saw you online the other day at Mr. Miracle's church.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's just man. Okay, yeah. I didn't even think about different things when you were saying that, but it is crazy. That church that I go to in Texas, when I first went down there, I had a job with some family and was like, okay, I'm going to find a cowboy church because this is cowboy country and there's lots of them around, so I might as well just find people like me, right? And the first church I went to, they were kind of trying to redo their worship team. And I walked in and there's a sign up on the wall that says worshipers wanted. I was like, perfect.
Of course.
I knew this. And loved the message. And I was like, okay, Lord, this is where I'm staying the rest of the winter. That is the church that I stay at now.
Wow.
And I'm involved in the band. And it's just crazy. There's been a lot of things where I'm not really wanting the opportunity. Most of it really is. I'm like, okay, Lord, yes, I'll say yes, and try to do it joyfully. But I'm always still nervous. I don't know if I have ever started singing anywhere, and usually I can get into it and it's fine, but I still get nervous. And
I wonder if for like most people it's like just like something the Lord is using, like a tiny thing, like okay, just sing, and it can seem like such a big thing, but like taking that step and trusting the Lord to just like, okay, this is what you told me to do, so I'm gonna do it because it doesn't cost money to just sing.
There's been the first year I was down there, I started really struggling with getting anxious up on stage, and like it's caused me to have to figure out how to breathe, and like because I would just completely lose my voice at a time where there's not a breathing spot, and so since then I'm just like, okay, and it makes me being nervous makes my voice not sound as good as I know it can. Right. But I've gotten to the point I'm like, you know what, Lord, like this is for you. Yeah. People don't really care what I sound like, and if they do, then that's their problem. But and the worship's not for them anyways. Right. Right. It's like, hey, if that's what you want me to sound like, then I guess that's what's gonna come out. So my voice is gonna crack, or I'm gonna wobble that note, or whatever. Just put whatever words I want in there. Yeah. That's been a crazy journey. 18-year-old Bailey wouldn't have expected 28-year-old Bailey to be doing all this music stuff. I love it, but that was not my plan. And do you have a little CD album thing out now? Yeah. So I started, my stepdad has been very like pushing that on me all growing up. He's like, those songwriters make a lot of money. I'm like, that's good for them, but that's not what I'm gonna do. You're like, I'm riding horses. Yeah, I'll play, but I don't want to put myself out there like that. But my grandpa, he turned 95, and I finally got inspired to actually like write a song for him for his 95th birthday. So my cousin, who actually does write music and has had a band, I went and had him help me write a song. So that was the very first song I wrote. And then it took me like 6 or 7 years to write 12 more, and I just kind of wrote them as I was inspired. Like it wasn't on purpose. It was just like, oh, this would be a cool idea, or I can like put a lot of words together about this experience that I'm feeling or whatever. Yeah. And I like take my guitar around and sing for people. Like I just go sing when I like have to kind of thing. I was like, I've got family that really love me and support me, and I don't sing my songs for anyone.
Right.
So why don't I just record it, and mainly as a way of like, here's a CD for my grandparents so they can listen to my songs.
Right.
I was like, wow, Spotify is really easy to put stuff on, so I put it on Spotify, and I recorded it all myself, so it's super like, now I'm like, oh, maybe I should invest in an
actual
like
system.
actually go to a recording studio or something. I don't know how expensive that is, but
our lives are just sponsored by Spotify.
Yeah.
Spotify,
Thank
our
you,
music,
Spotify.
our podcast. It is really just so easy to get started on Spotify.
That was my next question was, where can people find your music, Bailey?
On Spotify.
On Spotify.
If they really want to find it, Bailey Monnahan, but maybe put in the album name Chasing Dreams. Gotta remember what it's called.
You're like chasing something.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called, but it's I don't know. That's something I'm like, okay, if the Lord wants to use that. However, I don't want to get famous and go on tours. That just does not sound appealing to me at all. But if somebody can be inspired, I love listening to music that like hits a deep spot and is relatable or makes me feel like, oh, somebody else has felt that too.
Yeah.
And so that's really my
Yeah.
goal with my music, is to just be relatable. And
That's awesome. Have you ever played the guitar while riding the horse?
no, I think when we took, my sister's a photographer, and she's taken like album pictures for me. I think I had my guitar with the horse, but I don't think I actually got on the horse with the guitar.
Oh.
Our listeners are going to expect to see that.
I just have this image in my head of you just strumming along in the
Like an
Texas desert, just like playing your guitar while riding a horse.
That happens in Western movies. So,
So it has to happen for you.
Oh my gosh, music video, Bailey.
oh wow. Okay.
It'll be one cut. It'll be one long cut of you just playing live and singing on a horse.
I do have TikTok now. I could put that on TikTok.
Oh my gosh.
You can get one of those mics and just...
Yes, I have one of those actually.
Do you?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
Oh my goodness. Where can they find you on TikTok?
I'm also on TikTok too.
That's just my name.
Okay.
Bailey
It's
Monnahan.
nothing. Yeah, nothing too exciting.
Nothing creative.
Yeah.
So be on the lookout on TikTok for Bailey's horse
Bailey's
riding,
horse.
singing
That'll
videos.
be my first project when I get to Texas. Okay, guys, I gotta record a music video.
Yes,
Please
forget the
tag us
work.
in it. That'd be awesome.
Oh my
Horses don't need to be trained. This is more important.
Actually, that could be a selling point for training horses.
Yeah?
Some
True.
horses wouldn't handle that very well.
That is so
So
true.
if you can be on them playing a guitar and singing,
Yeah.
which you wouldn't be able to also steer, so they're gonna have
use
to
your
control.
knees.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, that's actually the thing. Use your legs to control it. So that could be. That might actually be kind
This
of
is a
fun.
new training concept.
Yes, exactly.
Go lope some circles and just be playing your guitar.
Yeah. So speaking of that, I'm very curious just about your job in general. But what does being a horse trainer entail?
Okay. So there's a lot of different avenues. Like you can have 10 different horse trainers, and they can all specialize in different stuff. So there's a lot of different events that you can do on a horse. There's people that just take their horses out on the trails. Okay, let's say there's just a lot of different kinds of horses. There's trail horses that just need to go on the trails out in the wilderness. There's show horses that are expected to be super athletic and very well trained. You got like barrel horses, rodeo horses, English horses. So those horses are all trained by different people, that specialize in different areas. And then you have not just different events, but you have different levels. So when you get, say, a baby horse, they need to be trained how to lead on a halter. They need to be trained how to be tied up and behave well and handle it well. You take a wild horse and they don't know any of this stuff, right?
Right.
So there's people, as far as like actual riding and training, there's people that start 2-year-olds. So that means like they're the first people to put the saddle on. They get them prepared to be ridden. There's a lot that you do on the ground. Like the cowboy movies, you just blindfold the horse and you throw the saddle on and jump on and they buck, and that's crazy. Like, that's not real. Some people do that.
Yeah.
that's not how I do that.
How do you do it?
I've had a lot of horses that I've actually started this year, and that's not something that I try to specialize in. That's just kind of the client base that I've gotten this year especially. So there's a lot that you can do to prepare the horse to be ready for when you have the bit in their mouth and you're going to steer them and you want to stop them. And like, I've put the first ride on several horses, and I don't want them bucking. Like, I want it to be I want them to be comfortable with me up on their back, and I want them to be comfortable with steering and going and stopping. So that's like your colt starters level. And then this was going to be one of my questions at the end, but since I'm explaining it, I guess I'll tell you. I kind of need it to explain. Then there's, like, you get a horse started, then they're green. Like, they have a very basic foundation, like preschool, kindergarten level, and then you start advancing what they know. So if you're like riding a barrel horse, you're gonna start getting them to where they're used to going around the barrels, and there's a lot of steps in between and just a lot of fine tuning stuff. But then you go all the way up to like competition, the highest level, and these guys that know how to get a horse ready. And not all horses are cut out for all this different stuff, so then it takes a good horseman or horsewoman to know, hey, like, maybe this horse, you want this horse to be a barrel horse, but it doesn't want to be a barrel horse. It wants to just go work on the ranch, or it's going to be better for that. So there's a lot of different aspects to it. But for me, growing up on the ranch, I love making horses that can go do the ranch work. But I also have been around the show horse world, so I really appreciate a horse that can go into the arena and they can go rope a steer and do a team rope and run, or a horse that can cut a cow, or there's also the reined cow horse, which is 3 different events thrown into one. That's what I really like. That was my last job, working for the guy for a year, where I was the assistant trainer and got to show a little bit. So my goal with my horses is to make them all around, basically. So I want horses that can go do all the ranch stuff. They can go gather cattle out in the pasture, up on the mountain. They can go rope something. You can use them at a branding to rope the calves and drag them to the fire. Or you can take them to town and go compete in a team roping or go show. At home, we don't have an arena. We just have wide open spaces, basically. So I have a round pen, which is just it's contained, and that's what you really use for starting colts, because they can't get away from you, and shouldn't get too crazy, like they're confined. But I've started a lot of colts this year, and then I really like getting green horses where they have the basics, like they're comfortable with somebody on their back, you can turn and stop and go and do all that stuff, but they just like need a job. They need something else, like ranch horses or any horse that's working cattle. They should be trained to where they kind of know their job and they know how to work the cow themselves, but they're still going to listen to the rider and do it how the rider wants. But that's, I don't know. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you know when we first moved here, actually, we had no experience at all with horses. None at all. And then we moved out here because Braun found a job on this random ranch. And he was like, I could be a rancher. But so, very interesting, whatever. But when the ranch we lived on had a horse rescue type thing. And so we would take horses for the summer and make them adoptable. So they were like the horses that don't, like, they're not necessarily green yet. They're like...
Yeah.
They're like, they don't like anything. So we would, like, we didn't do a lot of riding either because they were so dangerous. So, like, we would take, like, bright colored, like, plastic bags and, like, wave them around so the horses didn't get spooked. Like, we did all sorts of crazy work and with no horse training experience ever in our lives.
Wow.
And that's a whole nother...
Yeah.
Like, the colts that I ride for people, or myself, like, they are gentle already.
Yeah.
And they've been worked with a lot.
Right.
You have people that, like, take Mustangs that are kind of, maybe not as... That's different than what you do a little bit. But I've never really worked with problem horses like that, where they're dangerous, or they have major trust issues, or they haven't been handled at all.
Yeah. So it's very fun. It was kind of fun because, like, we would do it for kids, and, like, groups of kids would come out. And it would teach them, like, confidence because, like, the horses can, like, sense you know, all sorts of stuff. So like, and for me, like I would be like, calm down, Beth, calm down, Beth. Like they know you're nervous. But okay, so the second day on the ranch, we had this lady who dropped her horses off because they were boarding, and one had one eye and was also partially deaf. And then she had her buddy, like that she just hung out with. Neither one of them, and she just adopted them, like from a rescue. So they got out. On the second night we lived on this ranch, they got out and they went like 5 miles up this mountain.
Oh my gosh.
We could just barely see a speck. And Brom's like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to rope a horse. I don't know how to put a halter
Bailey.
on. Like, it was just so bad. And I'm just like from the house, like with binoculars, like, yeah, looks like he's getting closer. Like, it was so bad.
Oh my gosh.
But he did get them.
He did get them, yeah.
Good
and
job,
then
Bron.
the lady who actually owned the horses like showed up, and like when Bron was like walking them back, but it was just so funny. I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, why do we live in the middle of nowhere trying to take care of horses, which we know nothing about?
That's funny.
Have you had any crazy experiences with the horses where they've done something like that, like run away 5 miles or?
Customer horses sometimes scare me because it's somebody else's horse and you don't know what their experience is, you know, or if they're going to respect your fences. Do they even know what a barbed wire fence is? And then you have to introduce them to my herd. Like I don't have, all of my horses go together pretty much. I have the spaces to separate new horses for a while, but my goal is to run all my horses in a herd.
Yeah.
And they all get turned out at night together, and they all get brought into the corral during the day, and I catch what I need and do what I need, and they get kicked back out. But so that's always nerve-wracking, is getting them settled in. I had one horse that my horses just did not like, a customer horse that showed up. And my horses picked on him so bad, and I don't know, he was a different breed, so I don't know if that's what their problem was or what, but he ended up jumping the fence and decided that he just had enough. And so I was like, okay, he jumped the fence, but like there's fences around it, and then there's a creek at the bottom of the hill, and he's like, no horse crosses that, because why would you do that? Because there's no good place to cross it. I was like, well, he's contained, so I went to get a halter, and I was going to go out there to catch him. No, he jumped the creek and was headed up the hill and was leaving. I was like, this is bad. He's going to jump all the barbed wire fences, and actually the people that owned him were not that, like they were local people. I was like, he acts like he knows where he came from, which horses have good senses of that stuff. So I was like, we gotta get out here and stop this horse. So I was at home and called my parents and my sister. I was like, you guys gotta come help me. We gotta get him stopped. And he's like traveling the fences trying to figure out how to get out, and I was so worried. But thankfully he was pretty gentle already, and he finally calmed down and let me catch him. We put him in the trailer and took him back home, and I was like, oh lordy, okay, that was terrifying.
Never again.
You're like, I almost lost someone's horse.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, okay, so yeah, I think that's definitely the worst, but you never know with horses. They can get themselves in some pretty good messes. So.
Yeah, they can. It's almost like a goat, but goats are way worse.
Yeah.
Speaking from personal experience.
Yeah. Okay, Bailey, what has the Lord been showing you recently?
Well, so I've been doing the Word in a Year for probably 4 or 5 years now. And last year, about this time, the word that came to me was grace. And when I thought of this, I had a picture in my mind of what I was going to learn this year and what aspect of grace I was going to learn, and that is not what has happened. But it's been a lot about, I thought I was going to be learning how to show grace to other people because, you know, I'm pretty great, so why would I need grace, right? Well, no, so it's actually been a lot of learning how to show myself grace. And so that's been very interesting in like realizing where I've caused myself pain and trying not to be mad at myself. Trying to just be like, okay, you were doing the best that you knew how with what you knew at that point. Now I know a lot better. Yeah. But that doesn't mean I need to be like bashing myself where now I'm like, why did I even get myself into that situation? Yeah. But and accepting the Lord's grace for my mistakes also has been
Has there been like a specific time this year that the Lord has shown up with so much grace that you're like, whoa?
It's been throughout the year.
Yeah.
I think at the beginning of the year it was grace to just keep pressing into Him and keep choosing to do the hard thing, I guess, even though it wasn't not rewarding.
Right.
But just trying to be obedient and do what I thought was right. And I think the biggest thing is just recognizing how He's been pursuing me all year.
Yeah.
Throughout the year. It's not been my most fruitful or easy year for sure, but yeah, just recognizing at different times, like, oh yeah, you're here. You're still pursuing me and just calling me to you. So.
And isn't it funny how we always think, like, when we're in this, like, season, this year of, like, oh, it's not super fruitful or whatever, but then, like, to look back and realize that the Lord has been there, like, the whole time, you're like, oh.
Yeah.
That was great, thanks.
Thanks for not giving up on me.
Yeah. Even when we may or may not be pursuing Him like we should, like, He's just always there, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And even just stuff, so back to the worship thing, I started going to a Bible study, and was just, and it's a ways away, but I'd gone to it in previous years and didn't go last year for whatever reason, but really felt like I needed it this year, and was just expecting to go to Bible study once a week, and the wife of the couple that was putting it on, she like drags me to the back room the first night I was there, and I was like, this is really weird, but I trust you. And there's two girls back there practicing worship, and they've never led worship before, but they're going to lead worship. And the wife was like, Bailey, why don't you help with this? And that was another one of those where I was like, okay, yeah, I'll be obedient and say yes. But it was so good for me to just have that, have the fellowship at the Bible study, but also even just the first night of singing with those girls, like trying to boost their confidence, and like I've led worship, and just helping them step into that was so fulfilling. Even if my heart wasn't in the best state that it's ever been in, it was just like something the Lord put there for me to just keep pressing into Him and be surrounded by and worship,
Right.
So
yeah, like a gift. Like He knows you so well that He knew that would be meaningful to you, even though you didn't ask for it or expect it. Yeah. That's really cool. In the moments when you realize that you yourself need grace or need, the Lord's mercy or patience, like, what does His voice to you sound like in those times? Like, are there certain verses that come to mind, or certain things that you feel like He'll say to you? How do you know where to go?
I think verses at times, maybe whispers in my heart too. I am thankful that I've learned to journal a lot, so journaling through like the last year, and then even the time before that, and then being reminded of times. So I don't know if this really answers your question, but we had talked when you were on my podcast, and I think you had mentioned, I have no idea what we were talking about, but the Lord, you deciding to come up here and just feeling like, okay, Lord, do you want me to come, or do you want me to do something different? And He like didn't give you an answer. He was like, you can pick, and I'm going to bless you either way. There was a time for me about a year ago where I had the same question. I was like, Lord, if you want me to leave this, I will. Or do you want me to stay? And He didn't. I just totally felt like, and I even journaled that, like maybe the Lord sometimes gives us the option to do that. And I was reminded of that recently, and I went back and found that in my journal, and I was like, wow. And I was just reminded of like the outcome of that situation wasn't great, and I'm still trying to work through it and process it, but just knowing that the Lord, looking back and knowing the Lord was with me the whole time, and He would have blessed me either way. And even though I think I did choose the harder way, I still now I wouldn't put up with what I put up with, and I wouldn't choose that way again if I was put into a similar situation. But I know that I did everything I could, and I have that peace. I think if I'd have chosen like to get out earlier, it would have been like, I wonder if I gave up too early.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to be reminded of things. I think, and I think He's done that for me in the past too. just like kind of bringing clarity to situations, like questions I've had, and then it's as the outcome plays out, then things like pieces kind of get put together. It's like, oh, that's what you were doing in that situation.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool that he doesn't need to show us those things. He's God. We're not. We can just go through life and we should just be content to accept what is, but he's so cool. It's so cool that he's like, see, this is what I was doing, and let me kind of let you in, and that, that builds our trust in him too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, this is where I was in that situation where you couldn't see me, or
right. Yeah.
Like it's the illustration of like the tapestry. Have you heard about that? Where like if God's creating a tapestry and you're looking at the back, it just looks like strings,
ugly,
random strings. Like, what is going on? There's a bunch of colors. What is it? And then sometimes he'll turn it around and you can see the front of like the beauty that he is creating and
the actual picture.
The picture, yeah. And so I feel like there's those moments of clarity where you're like, oh my gosh, that's what you were doing. That's what all of this was for. And even if it doesn't explain all the hard things, like, it shows his goodness and his presence in it. And I know we had talked also on your podcast, just sharing about grief and loss and what that looks like. And I feel like that's another one of those moments where when you're in it, it feels like God is absent, but you look back and you're like, oh my gosh, he was actually so close. So I'm just curious what your experience with that has been, and however much you want to share about that.
Yeah. For sure. So when I was 23, and actually at that last job with the cowboy church and everything, one of the biggest blessings there was I had a friend that lived 30 minutes from there, and it was his family that his mom actually helped start that church, and they were still attending. And I had known this guy for maybe like a year before I moved down there, and got to spend a lot more time with him, get to know his family, went to church with him. And he ended up passing away in October while I was down there. And that was one of the big things where I was so grateful that I got to be closer to him and spend more time with him in different settings, and then get to know his family. Like I even helped his family move cows, and then I went to dinner with his family a couple times or whatever. But because of building that relationship while he was alive, after he passed away, I was able, like that whole week after he passed away, I'd work in the mornings and kind of get the stuff done that I had to get done, and then I'd go spend the afternoon and the evening with his family. And I'm so grateful for that time, to just be able to grieve with them. And that by far was totally unexpected and was by far the hardest thing I've ever had to go through in my life. But it's crazy to think that some people going through stuff like that get mad at God, and that's totally understandable. I'm not gonna bash people like that at all, but for whatever reason, for me, like that was definitely the biggest test of my faith that I had ever had. And my response was like, holy crap, Lord, like I don't really like it down here anymore. Like this really sucks, and you're gonna have to put me back together and give me a reason to keep pressing on. And he actually never felt far, and I was never mad at him, even though obviously he could have been a totally different outcome, but that was just his plan. And he has grown me so much through that. Like I am a completely different person in a very good way because of all that, and just different things, from realizing, okay, heaven is a reality and that is what we're yearning for, not taking things for granted, saying I love you to people, but just, I think the biggest thing for me personally was like having that desperation for the Lord, and truly just saying, hey, you've got to give me purpose again, and him showing up and doing that.
How has he shown up in giving you purpose, or like putting you back together? How have you seen him do that?
I don't know if it's anything in particular, but just knowing how broken I was, and there was a lot of things in my relationship with Garrett that didn't make sense throughout. And there was a really sweet time with the Lord. I think it was like the night after I had found out he passed away. I couldn't sleep, of course, and actually went out to the barn and rode 4 horses from like midnight till 2 or 3 in the morning. And obviously there was nobody else around, and the Lord was so sweet, and I was just talking to him and did a lot of crying, obviously, and he told me a lot of things that just little pieces, like this is where I was at in this, and like part of it was like, this is why you have this job, so that you can be close, and or you know, part of the reason why. And so just him showing up, I don't know if there's, I think it just matured me a lot through all of that, and being able to minister to other people. I've really seen that. And you know, somebody else has a friend that passed away that maybe I don't know this person very well, but I'm like, oh, I can reach out and say, you know, if you need to talk about it, let me know. But yeah, it's crazy how I had no idea how the Lord could work through tragedy like that until that experience.
It's really cool. Thanks for sharing.
Okay, are we ready for some horsing around?
I think we're ready for horsing around.
Okay.
So Bailey, we have asked you to bring some either topics, phrases, things about horsemanship, ranch work that Beth and I might not know, and give us a pop quiz.
Okay. I don't know if I came up with very good ones, but maybe I'll just throw some more at you if you just blaze through these.
Okay.
Okay.
I fully plan on doing that, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Blazing through them?
Blazing through.
All right. Are we having a contest, like keeping score? Who's better, Kelsey or I?
I don't care.
I'm just kidding.
Okay, pop
Why
quiz,
not?
everybody pull out your notebooks. Question number 1.
All right, I'm just kidding.
Okay, what is a yearling?
I know.
Oh.
I raised my hand as if they could see. Is it a horse that is a year old?
Ooh.
Or a cow?
Yeah. Yeah. Any animal, which in my world is horses or cows, that are a year old.
Interesting. I only heard it pertain to cows.
So you can have, excuse me. So we run yearling steers on our place, which means they are year-old cattle that are males that cannot reproduce. But yeah, everybody just says, you know, are you running yearlings or are you running
They say it
cows?
just like that, yearlings.
Yearlings.
Yearlings,
Yes, yes. We need to practice, Beth. Yearlings.
Good job. Okay.
It's not yearlings.
No, it's not. Yearlings. Okay, what's a green horse? That was the one that I kind of.
That's like a not like a baby horse, but like someone that needs training.
Yeah, it has some training, but it's not like trained for a specific job.
Yes, good.
Okay.
So they can be any age. You could have like a horse that's 10 years old that's never been touched.
Right.
And someone just starts working with it, then it would be green. Or most green horses, in my opinion, should be about 2 or 3 year olds.
Yeah.
Because they've got a little bit of a foundation, but not finished in anything in particular. Okay. What's the difference between a heifer and a cow?
Yes. I feel like I should know this.
I also feel like I should know this. Something about babies.
Oh.
Have they had a baby? A heifer has had a baby and a cow has not?
Or maybe a heifer is a female cow that is the age to have a calf but doesn't.
You guys are close. Beth was just backwards.
Oh.
A heifer means it has not had a calf yet.
Okay.
Oh.
And cows have.
That's interesting. I figured it would be the other way around.
There you go.
Anyways.
Dropsy or brisket is a cow disease. How does it affect cattle?
They just drop right there in the field.
You said brisket?
Dropsy / brisket. I think it's mostly called dropsy.
Is that when you would just butcher it and make it into brisket?
They drop dead and then you butcher
It
it.
seems like a natural progression to me. Dropsy in the field and then brisket.
and then that's how we get brisket.
Wow, that's good. I never even thought about it like that, but it's common since we are at a high altitude. Some cattle cannot handle it, so they get fluid in their brisket area.
In their
Is a brisket a part of their body?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
It's like a portion of meat, right? On
Yes.
their body.
Oh, okay. It's a cut of meat. Interesting.
Yeah. What'd you think it was?
I didn't know. I thought it was just the way it was cooked.
Well, so the way especially with yearlings, I think they come from different areas and get sent up here where it's higher elevation. So we get not a lot of them, but it's a common thing. And the only way to save them, like a lot of stuff, you can give them medicine or antibiotics or whatever and fix the problem. But for dropsies, you have to take them to lower elevation.
So do people actually call it brisket? Like, yep, that cow's got brisket.
Well, everybody up here calls it dropsy.
Uh-huh.
I think my mom from eastern Colorado, she called it brisket before, so I don't know if brisket is just totally the wrong thing that we call it. I don't know. It just
makes me want some Texas barbecue.
I know, right? Now we're gonna get hungry.
Yeah, pretty soon Bailey will be there with the Texas barbecue.
Yeah, exactly.
Dang it.
Don't tempt me. That was the end of what I had wrote down. Do you want some more?
Yes, please.
Okay.
We're doing great.
You are. I am impressed. Do you guys know what the event cutting is as far as showing horses?
Is that where they like move really fast?
Yeah. Doing what though? Like, what's the purpose? Beth's motions were side to side, by the way.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I could see it. But...
I'm thinking like, in basketball when you like cut.
Oh yeah.
Is it for the purpose of like, for a horse that's working cattle to be able to cut off the cattle that need to be cut off?
Very good.
Oh, see, I was thinking like show horse or something. Like they were just like.
Well, it is an actual event.
Oh.
So yes, there's a bunch of cows in the arena, probably yearlings.
Yearlings.
And then the person that's showing rides their horse in there, and they cut one cow away from the others, and then they have to keep it separated.
Yes.
Oh, interesting.
Wow. I have learned something.
About
in the past 5 years. I've learned something.
Okay. Do you know what reining is, as far as show horses go?
Something with their reins.
Yeah. Yes.
Well done, Beth. That's really good.
That's about every time. Every kind of horse thing usually has reins.
Is it having to do with like precise steering?
I'd say that's everything also.
Are you reining in your horse?
Kind of.
Wait, the term is reining?
Yeah.
Reining.
R-E-I-N. I-N-G. Like it is with a rein. Yeah. So the event is, there's a pattern, and usually the big parts of the pattern are sliding stop. You have to lope circles both directions, and you change leads. So horses, when they are like loping to the left, their left front leg will reach out in front of their right, just the way their gait is. And then when they go to the right, then that changes. And that's like actually, like it's a very natural movement for horses, but it can be very difficult to teach them to do it when you want them to do it.
Right.
It's like when I learned how to do that, it was the coolest thing ever. And some of my horses still don't know how to do it, so that's something that I'm still trying to work on. But so you have sliding stops where you like run really fast and horse just stops and their hind legs just drag in the ground. And then they spin really fast, both directions.
Oh my gosh.
And so those are the big maneuvers, and then you're loping the circles, and the pattern, you have to do it exactly as the pattern says or else you get disqualified. And then there's judges that judge how well you do all of those maneuvers.
Interesting.
How cool. Yeah, I've still not been to a rodeo since I've been here.
What?
Oh my gosh.
So, but I feel like I would see a lot of these things at the rodeo.
So actually, no, you wouldn't.
Oh, never mind.
let me fill you in on that. So you have...
we've got to take Kelsey to a rodeo.
Yeah.
This is my first rodeo.
So that's like different facets of even the Western horse world. So you have English that does I'm not part of that. Jumping and dressage and whatever.
Is that where they ride the saddle sideways?
No.
Oh.
But
they do have different saddles, right?
Yeah, smaller saddles, and they wear the helmets and...
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
And the special pants.
Yeah.
Stretchy pants.
and they're dressed up. And then the Western world, you have, like, rodeo people, and then the show horses, which is the cutting and the reining. I'm trying to think. That's probably mostly the Western side of the show horse world. And then you have ranch cowboys and the trail riders, so there's different facets. And I'm sure the English world is that way too. But all these people in the Western world have the Western saddles, the cowboy hats. But the rodeo world is very much different than that. show horse world. The show horse world is a lot more, I would say there's a lot more money in it, but the rodeo world is getting to the point where maybe they've always been like that, I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money in that too. But the show horse world is judged. Yeah, and then the rodeo world, your events are timed. So the rodeo, there's roping, where you have like the two people, one guy ropes the head, one guy ropes the heels, so that's team roping. There's calf roping, where there's only one person. He goes, ropes the calf, and then jumps off his horse and ties the legs together. You have like barrel racing. And
that's where you have a barrel racer.
Maybe now's your time.
There you go.
No.
Then you have like the bull riding and bronc riding over there. In the show horse world, everything's a lot more slower, and I mean, the horses in the rodeo world are very well trained. Absolutely, for sure too. It's just a whole different concept than the show horse world, I guess.
Interesting. I guess I was thinking that those were the same thing, like show horses equals rodeo.
Yeah.
But I guess that's not the case.
No.
Wow.
And ranch rodeo is different than regular rodeo, right? Yeah.
Ranch rodeo, yeah. There's like teams of guys, and they go rope a cow and tie one down and put one in the trailer and whatever the rules are at that ranch rodeo.
Yeah.
In what situation would somebody ride a greased hog? Is this a real thing that people do?
I have never seen anyone
Not
ride
up
a greased
here.
hog.
Oh, interesting.
I've heard of catching a greased hog.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's like even in the south.
Like a pig
maybe.
catch.
Yeah.
Back home we did that at our...
There you go. In Kansas.
In Kansas.
Okay. What situation?
They would release a pig into a pen, and then all the kids would chase it and try to get the ribbon off its tail.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking.
And if
I'm
you
not
get the
riding
ribbon,
it,
you win
but
some
catching
money.
it.
Yeah.
But it's greased, right?
I don't know.
What the heck?
I've heard of that before.
Okay, I
I
thought I was
think
going
you're
crazy.
Totally crazy. Yeah.
It's probably a southern thing.
Maybe
Yeah,
it's
I
in
would
Little
say.
House on the Prairie. You know, sometimes I get confused where I get my knowledge.
Okay, question, Kelsey.
Yeah.
What is mutton busting?
Ooh.
Mutton busting?
Uh-huh.
Oh, I know this because I don't. Well, I thought I knew.
Second guessing.
Wait, yeah, now I'm overthinking. Is it something to do with sheep?
Yeah.
Mutton busting is where you catch a sheep, but it's greased.
Close.
I'm joking. Mutton busting is where you chase down a sheep and pin it to the ground.
No.
Oh, what is it?
You like ride the sheep. You see how long you can stay on? It's like a kid thing.
Okay, so I was
For kids.
confusing
It's
the
for kids.
hog and the
Oh,
mutton
there you go.
busting. I was
Yeah.
combining the
Put them
two.
together.
There you go.
Wow.
But none of them are greased, I don't think.
I do think, like a lot of rodeos, that I've been at, I guess, they will have the I don't even know what they call it, but they turn a calf loose in the arena, and like all the
Yes.
kids from the stands come in, and they have a ribbon tied around its tail,
Okay.
and all the kids chase after it and try to get the ribbon and get money.
Yeah.
And for the adults, I've seen like they put a mean cow in there.
Yeah.
Oh,
And put
wow.
like something in a nose ring in her nose or on her horn or something, and people get hurt, and it's kind of silly, but it's for
At
money.
our home rodeo back home, we also had stick horse races.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
Everyone would get a stick and you would run.
That sounds amazing.
It's the
Wow.
one thing I could do.
Nice.
But I think the greased hog thing, I think I have heard of that, where people, like, you're supposed to go catch it. And I don't know if you win the hog or if you win money or
You
what
should
that
go
is.
ask your friends in Texas.
Okay. Yeah. I think I have a friend in Arkansas that might know better than me. There you go. Maybe Texas has it, I don't know.
Oh, that's funny.
This has really just shown me that I have so much more to learn.
But at least
Yeah.
you know what AI is.
I do know what
Oh.
AI is. Not artificial intelligence, but
Artificial something.
yeah. We'll get
That's
into
like-
that in a future episode.
That's like BLM.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. Black Lives Matter for like
Yeah.
everyone
I'm
else. And
over
then
here
for
like,
us,
no, that's not what that means.
I know. For us, you'd say the BLM is like the Bureau of Land Management.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's just different parts of the country, or if you're
Even in Colorado,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
in Denver,
Not in-
BLM means something way different than just
Exactly.
here.
Yeah.
It is a whole different culture. And it sounds like, from what you're saying, like the Texas culture is different from the Colorado
Oh, it
culture.
is,
Yes.
yeah.
And now, like, you know, there's the ranch rodeo and the normal rodeo and show horses, and like, it's just this whole other
Yeah.
culture.
I'll throw in another little twist for you. Even ranchers around the country, totally different.
Yep.
You have like your Texas ranchers are a lot different than the ranchers you see around here in Colorado, and then like Nevada and Montana and probably whatever there is back east. There's even ranchers in Florida, and like just, I mean, our landscape is so vastly different. Up here, you can run a lot of cattle in a small area of land. Down in Texas, where there's like no forage, you have to have a lot of country to feed not many cattle. And your cattle breeds need to be different, because different kinds of cattle are going to thrive down there in the hot desert versus up here in the cold winters. So it's just, wow.
It is different.
And people use different kind of dogs. Like, it just gets very...
Oh, yeah, that's a whole nother topic, is the dogs that are used for ranch work. Crazy.
And interestingly, like, back home, there's only farmers.
Yeah.
They're referred... I don't think there's, like, really ranchers. Everybody's a farmer.
Maybe farmers that have some cows, but it's a lot more.
Also, we didn't flood irrigate back home. Number one, because we lived where there was no water.
Yeah. Was there sprinklers?
Yeah. But flood irrigating is so fascinating to me. And Braun loves it. It's like he loves flood irrigating.
Wow, I'm going to have to ask him on Sunday. So, Braun, tell me about flood irrigation.
Oh, yeah, he loves it.
There's been people that come up from Texas, because we used to have family that would lease the ranch, and they'd run their cattle up here. And they've got connections from horse showing all across the country, but they'd bring people up from, like, there was a guy from the Carolinas that would come help, and a guy from Texas would come up, and just to, like, get away from home and come help be on the ranch, you know?
Right.
And, like, I grew up here. I know how our ranch runs. To me, it's just, like, no big deal. But the flood irrigating, people, even, we had cattle from an owner a couple years ago, and he's like, well, let's just put our mineral, like, by the water holes where the cows are going to be. I'm like, there's water everywhere in this pasture. Like, that's not a problem. We can put it wherever.
The whole
it's like,
pasture's a water hole.
There's water up on that hill. I was like, yeah, it's coming out of the ditch. And that, just taking stuff like that for granted, where it's completely different how we manage land, just because land is so diverse. But that is something I would love to go, like, either work or just be a fly on the wall on operations where they really take pride in running their cattle. Not that people out here don't, but just different areas, and seeing how people do things differently, and horse programs too, stuff like that just fascinates me. But
speaking of that, is there anything that you wonder about the world? How did we get here as a society?
Why did people start flood irrigating? Which we do know that, right? Yeah. But then they can invented sprinklers and all that. But anyways, anything you wonder about the world?
The thing that really fascinates me, because I am not good in this area, is technology. Like, who came up with radio? Or the internet blows my mind. How do you... Or computers, just all of that stuff. I can't even figure out how to make it work now that it's all set up for me, let alone try to... Or even motors. Who figured out how to put motors together to...
Right.
My mind does not comprehend those things. So.
Yeah. Like the car. The guy who invented the car.
Yeah.
Like, why did you put all those things together?
Right.
And just decide to make something that goes?
like,
that's weird. I don't know. That's weird to me.
I agree.
It is interesting. I feel like I wonder less about that and more about everything that you know about, like the whole, like, agriculture, ranching, like,
and
how did that get started? You know, like, how did people decide that these are the events that are going to be in a rodeo, or this is what we're going to do with a show horse, or even, like, how did horses get to this continent, first of all? Were they always here? Were they imported? And then how did people learn to work with them?
Yes. Who had the thought to ride a horse?
Yes.
That is something that I...
Especially, like, if it was, like, a wild Mustang or something.
Right.
And that was, like, your first encounter with a horse. Like,
you're like, let's go get on that thing.
No.
And then to use them to work cattle. Like, how did they discover, like, we can train these horses to work our cattle, our ranches?
Yeah. That's something that I mean, as horse people, I'm sure we take it all for granted way too much, but... Yeah, every now and then, especially starting these colts that I've had this summer.
The what?
Colts. Young colts.
No, colts. You know, Bailey's side job is starting colts.
Oh, Papa's colt over here.
I just started this colt.
Okay, see, this is where, like, horse world and regular world intermingle.
That's funny. concern for me for a second.
I was tracking because now I know so much about the horse world. Yeah.
Oh, that was good.
I was not tracking.
Beth is crying. Bailey's crying. Oh my gosh.
Oh gosh.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I interrupted that.
Okay, I found where I was going. Starting young horses. But like getting them in from customers, and like the first few days you work with them just on the ground, it's like sometimes a train wreck. I walk away feeling like, did I get anything accomplished? And not that they're bad horses, and probably a lot of it's me inexperience, like not working with that horse the way I should have or whatever. I've learned a lot this summer, but going from that to 3 weeks later I'm riding them and they're not doing anything bad, like they're not bucking or running off or anything.
Yeah.
Like their natural instinct is not for something to be on their back. That's probably typically a predator out in the wild, you know.
Right.
So for us to be able to, and it's all about, like, the biggest thing with training horses is pressure. If you apply pressure, there has to be a release. So wherever you release the pressure, that's where the horse is going to learn to go. So just, it's a lot of baby steps too, and just building that relationship with the horse and you being consistent, and so you're not confusing them. And
are you still thinking about Colt's Beth?
It just came back to me. Gosh, that was dumb. Sorry.
Oh. But it is crazy. Every now and then it'll hit me about how, like, wow, this horse didn't know any of this stuff 3 weeks ago, and now it's letting me do this. Yeah. And yeah, what in the world? These horses are 1,000 pounds plus when they're full grown. Why am 125 pound me? Why are they letting me control it? And like, why is it acceptable that I make it go away from all its buddies and make it go do this job for me? It doesn't. Yeah, sometimes that's my life daily, but every now and then that does hit me. Yeah. Like, what in the world? Wow. We have these animals that let us do these things? Yeah. And when we put shoes on their feet and put a saddle on them, and then we rope other animals and tie them to them, and it's just like, what in the world? Who came up with this?
Can you imagine what they did with horses, like Indians, like what all sorts of stuff? Like they probably pulled a buffalo with it. You know what I mean?
Or like hunted buffalo.
Yeah, that's
went and ran them on.
Like you got to drag it back to your camp. That's a lot of weight.
Yeah,
that's probably where we
war horses.
Oh my gosh!
I watch war movies every now and then. I'm like, wow, those things. Not that that's real life, the war movies.
Or like the carriage, like when they hook carriages up to it, and they've got like these blinders on, and it's just like that. I'm like, why? Why did you let somebody do that to you?
Yeah. And even like horse therapy, like that horses can have such a healing impact on people.
Yeah.
How the heck? It's amazing.
And just because we're on the topic, throw something else. I've seen horses where I ride them and I'm experienced and I can get them kind of wound up or ready to do a job or whatever, and maybe I have that horse for sale. Somebody comes and looks at it and they're like, a lot less experienced than me. I'm like, I don't know, this horse, like, your lack of confidence and you getting scared might actually make this horse, like you say, the horse can sense it. And there's been several times where somebody wants to buy one of my horses and I'm like, I just don't think this is going to be a good fit for you.
Right.
Well, then they ride it and they love it. And it's just that horse. And I've heard of, like, some people will have a horse and the parents go compete on it and go do a job, and then they put their little kid on it and the horse completely changes.
Wow.
So horses can sense.
Yeah.
Well, and then some horses you wouldn't want to trust with your kid or whatever. Yeah. But some horses, they can just come down to the rider's level. So that's pretty fascinating.
Well, thank you, Bailey, for coming, recording with us.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's always fun.
Yeah.
Yes. Thanks for going deep and also just making it so fun.
Bloopers, please add bloopers. Although I think it took you like 7 years to put in bloopers last time.
Yeah, that's fine. I had 7 years. Okay.
Do you want to do The intro.
Yes. Let's do it.
I'm sorry, I just have to keep laughing for a second. I tried to like subtly laugh over here, but then my chair just started rocking.
The moment tears started coming down your face, I was like, oh no.
I can't imagine what my face looked like because
the look on your face was hilarious.
I was literally like, what? You're
Bailey.
starting cults?
On the side, you know.
I dabble in witchcraft too.
You know, all these cults I've been starting this summer. I was like, excuse me?
Not just one, multiple. But 4 other people, so they're not your cults. You know?
She's just a cult planter.
Oh my gosh.
Instead of church planting, Bailey's been cult planting. We're going to need to know what kind of worship you're doing.
Actually.
Oh my.
Good.
Okay, well, shall we start like we never started already?
Yeah.
Okay.
Cults. Don't say that. She's going to talk to us about starting cults and
Leading worship.
Yes. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to How Did We Get Here? That was not very good. Let's try it again.
I don't have to use my hands every time. How did we get here?
Okay. Maybe you should start. I think that's what's wrong.
And then after we say how did we get here, you're going to talk.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey guys, welcome back to
How Did We Get Here?
Whoops.